Hello and welcome back to another CTF walkthrough. Today, we're going back to one of my favorite platforms, Hack Smarter by Tyler Ransby, and we're going to be doing another one of my boxes actually. So this is Welcome. I created this about a month or two ago, and it just got published yesterday, I think. So I thought it'd be fun to go through my box, my thought process, and how to solve this from the creator's perspective. So I've already got this up and running in my Kali machine, and if you read the description of the box, we do start with credentials. It's a internal pen test. So, or I believe the situation is more so for red team, and we fished these credentials. So we have eHills and I Love My Job 2025, and I've also ran an nmap scan. So on the left-hand side here, we have our IP. I ran nmap-t4-a, which just encompasses everything. I like to think of -a as -all. So we have our default scripts, we're enumerating services, and we are also going to output all of this into an nmap.txt format, which we can look at later if we need to. But the nmap scan comes back and we just have DNS, we have Kerberos, we have SMB, LDAP. All these things are telling that it's going to be an active directory machine. And we can see that, right? We have dco1.welcome.local, we have welcome.local, right? So our nmap scan is very telling of what we're going to be attacking and what we're going to be enumerating. And as we can see, it's active directory, it's going to be a domain controller. And we also have WinRM and RDP open. So if we get credentials, we can RDP into this machine, though we may not need to. So let's start by just knowing what we have, right? We have credentials, and I'll close this pane here, make this a little bigger. We have these credentials, and the first thing that we're going to do is, first thing I want to check is if I can evil WinRM in, right? If we have remote execution, if we're able to remote in, that would be a huge starting point. Oh my gosh, why can't I copy this? That'd be a huge starting point because we get a shell on the actual machine. We get a shell on the domain controller. This lab only has one machine, which means it is the domain controller. So if we can get a shell on the domain controller, it gives us a lot more leverage for further enumeration and lateral movement. So let's just quickly check. -I for IP, -u e.hills, and -p, I love my job. I wonder if eHills actually loves this job. So evil WinRM pops up, and it is not looking like it. Looks like we're just going to time out here. At this point, if evil WinRM does not respond to you, you're out of luck, pal. So evil WinRM is not going to be the way forward here. Instead, we can just continue on in our enumeration. So what I like to do, a tool that I love and I will always stand by, is netexec for Active Directory for Windows machines. Whenever you see SMB and LDAP open, I automatically think netexec. So that's just NXC for short. We'll enumerate SMB first, and we'll throw our IP here, -u, and it's going to be the similar syntax to evil WinRM, -u and -p. And I also like to list out shares. So we should authenticate because these are the credentials we fished. Yep, we have welcome.local, Elijah Hills, and I Love My Job. We successfully authenticate and we can enumerate the shares. And we see the 3 default shares here. Really nothing to look at here. It's just default shares that some users will have access to, and creator's bias. I usually like leaving these read on because when I was first starting doing these Active Directory machines, I thought these were actual like directories. I thought, oh shoot, I have read permission on 3 of these shares. I gotta go dig into that. And it was a rabbit hole that I fell down when I was first doing Active Directory machines. And I think it is a necessary rabbit hole to fall down for any beginners in the field. So if you're a beginner and you're watching this and you happen to go into each one of these shares and enumerate the heck out of it, 1, I'm sorry, but 2, I hope you learned something. Okay. So human resources, this is going to be a very interesting share for us because it's a custom share, right? This is not default. And we can actually go into this a little more, right? So SMB client, we're going to go // and then specify the share we want, which is human resources. And make sure you're doing this in quotes since there is a space here. You have to specify quotes. And then dash capital U for our user and copy, and then percent, and then our password. And I'm also going to quote this because there is a special character. And that should get us in. Yep. We do pwd. We are in the human resources directory. A quick ls shows us that we have 5 files here. So we have the start guide, we have the performance review guide, we have handbook, we have benefits, and then we have the holiday schedule. So I believe there's a way in SMB client to download everything at once. And I'm just trying to think of what it is. I think it's recursive on. Okay, recurse on. And then get everything. Dash Y. Nope. You know, this is, I guess we're gonna have to do it the old-fashioned way. That's okay. So we're just gonna download all these files with the get command, making sure to add everything in quotes because again, there are spaces in all of these. So we do not want to get done in by the quotes. I'm really frustrated that I wasn't able to remember the recursive get command because in scenarios like this, it would be really helpful. But I think Googling it and trying to find out what it was would take more time than actually doing it manually to download these 5 files. So we have all these files. We can exit now, do a quick ls, and we see we have all of these files. I'm going to make a new directory called HR share and move all of the welcome stuff into the HR share just to clean up our directory a little bit. CD in there, and I'm going to just Firefox open all of them. And we'll see if that works. It looks like it does. Cool. So we opened all 5 of the files in Firefox so we can see what each of the files contains. So we have the holiday schedule, which is the holiday schedule. Okay, there's really nothing here. Welcome benefits, health insurance, 401k, PTO. We do have a group here, so this could be something to look at, but I'm going to obtain users and groups in another way shortly, so we can ignore that for now. Handbook excerpts. So we have that same email, the same group. That doesn't look like there's anything here. Performance guide, again, that exact same email, really nothing, no new information here. And then the last one is the start guide, but we are prompted with a password. So this start guide is password protected. And we can easily get around this. We could like guess password or hello 123, like whatever. We could guess passwords here, but that is incredibly inefficient. So we will not be doing that. Instead, we're going to be using John the Ripper I actually call it the 2John functionalities and the 2John binaries. It's just the like X to John, right? This could be PDF to John, and this is what we're going to use here. PDF to John, Excel to John, SSH to John, anything that will convert our file into a hash that John can crack in order to give us the password protected file, access to the password protected file, because we'd have the password. So to do this, we're going to do PDF to John, and it is this start guide. So we're going to put this in quotes, or I think we can just specify like this. Welcome. It'll automatically do it. It'll automatically escape the spaces, which is very nice. And we're going to put that into forjohn.txt. And if we cat forjohn.txt, we see, okay, we have our PDF file, and it is now in a hash that John the Ripper can understand. So all we need to do is John for John.text, and we can specify the word list is user share where this rock you. And we'll let it run. And just like that, it cracks incredibly quickly. The password to the HR document is human resources. Really, really clever out of the welcome company here. So now if we Firefox open that document again, so welcome start guide, we can paste in our password of human resources and we get access to the document. So welcome start guide, welcome to welcome. A little confusing. Short HR guide contains the most common onboarding steps and important information to get new employees started quickly. So account setup, very important. So the account is created by IT and placed into the user's OU. And we actually have a temporary and default password here. So this could be something we put into our credentials document. Let's nano or echo this into creds. All right, so now we have that just written down. On first login, you must change the password. And then here's some password guidance. So this is the guidance, though we should see what the actual policy is to see if the guidance follows the policy. Because thinking about it from a user's perspective, if the guidance is to use 20 characters, but if the policy lets you use a password with 6 characters, which one are you going to choose? You're probably going to choose, at least most users and most everyday people are going to choose the easier option. They're going to choose the option with less characters, less things to remember, more simple. So this is the guidance, but we should see the policy and seeing what the policy actually is. And we also have a new email here. So we have helpdesk@welcome.local. So now I have HR and helpdesk. And again, we're going to enumerate users and groups very shortly. So we'll put that to the side for now. Access and permissions. Only HR group members should access sensitive folders. Service accounts. So service dash asterisks are for IT services. Do not attempt to use or change these accounts. So this is hinting towards maybe another account we'll see. And again, we're going to enumerate users, and I guess I should just do that right now. So I'm going to go back. So cat creds. I'm going to use netexec to do this. Again, netexec is one of my favorite tools for anything Active Directory, anything Windows. It's just so easy to use and really fun. Tell me you're seeing this orange color and blue color, and you're saying, "Oh, that's fun." It's fun, guys. It's fun. And I'm going to use the -- users flag for SMB, and this should print out. Yep, it prints out all of our users. And as the this document suggested, we do have 2 service accounts. We have service CA and service web. Okay, and we also have common contacts here. So we have HR, help desk, and security. I wonder if there is a -- groups. I wonder if we can enumerate groups. I don't know if this is a flag or not. Oh, argument moved to the LDAP protocol. Okay, let's do LDAP protocol. Oh, there you go. This is something I've never seen before. I've never used this module before, so that's very nice. So with groups, we can see our custom groups here. We have HR group with a member count of 2, help desk group with a member count of 1, and the IT group with a member count of 3. Very cool. But something that we should do here is clean up our users. And it's kind of hard to see here with the way I'm split. So I'm going to close this tab, close this, and nano users.txt. So we have, it's a lot easier to see this way. We have these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11-ish users, and we have the IT intern, the web server that's in progress, and then we have a couple default accounts. But we can clean this up further using awk. So if we cat out users, it's hard to copy and paste each of these if we need them. So right now our scenario is, remember, we do have this default password, and the next logical step would be to spray this password against our list of users. We want to see if any of these users are still using the default password. Right? It's suggested, strongly suggested, and quote unquote required by that document we saw, by that start guide we saw, that users must change their password. But all in all, that's just a PDF document. It's not actually requiring users to do that unless we change the setting on the back end. So it's very possible that while the welcome company requires you to change your password, it's very possible that it technically does not require you to change the password. So that's what we're going to check for here. But we can't check for it against this users list. We need to clean it up a little bit. And to do that, we're going to use awk. So awk, hopefully I remember the syntax here. I think it's just print the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th column. And let's see if that works. Oops, I need to specify users.text. It does not work. Print. Are there no quotes here? Gosh, I forgot my awk syntax. Don't worry. This is where I will Google it because it's important. Print 5th column awk. All right, Gemini, do me good. Come on now. Ah, I messed up the quotes. It's on the other side. Boom, there we go. And then I'm going to pipe that into clean users.txt. All right, so I'm going to remove users, cat clean users, and there we go. We have our clean users list. And now to spray that, once again, I'm going to use netexec. So I'm going to type up here, all the way up, netexec, SMB. And so for the users parameter, I'm just going to do clean users.text. And for the password parameter, I'm going to specify this password here. And I'm going to do dash continue on success. So if we get more than one match, we'll be able to see that. So netexec doesn't stop when it finds one. And parsing through our users, we find that we actually do have some password reuse or lack of password change on the domain. So we have a.harris. Let's add that to our credentials list, a.harris, and the password of welcome 2025 into creds.text. So we have compromised another user on the domain, but we're kind of shooting blind here. We don't really have a ton of information to go off of. Yes, we have another account and we can blindly check if they're able to win RM, but let's do this a little more sophisticated. Let's get a little more in depth and see exactly what our user a.harris can do. And to do this, we're going to do bloodhound. Okay. So netexec LDAP, and we can enumerate. We should just check, I guess, if these credentials work for LDAP before we go crazy here. And they actually don't, which is shocking. So, oh, I spelled a.harris wrong. That's why. There we go. I was kind of surprised there. As the box creator, I was thinking there's no way that those shouldn't work there. So we can now extract bloodhound information and use bloodhound to just extract more information and get a better look at what this domain is actually holding and how our user can interact with the other users on the domain. So this we're going to do -- bloodhound -- DNS TCP. DNS server is our domain controller. And we're going to do -c all. Hopefully I'm remembering that syntax correctly. It looks like we are. And then on a second pane, I like to just go into and use these 4 desktops that Kali gives you. So like my 4th one is for my VPN. My 1st one is for like the general stuff. And then the 2nd one I like to use for Bloodhound or RDP. Sudo opt bloodhound CLI up, I think is the command. I think that is correct. Lovely. And I will say on this pane, because a weird thing with Bloodhound CLI is if you go back to the first pane, like the first desktop, Bloodhound will start in that pane instead of the second pane. So while I started the command here in the second desktop, if I switch over to the first desktop before it starts, then Bloodhound is going to start in the first desktop. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's a weird nuance that I've found. Yeah, we'll let bloodhound start here. I guess it doesn't really matter because it's browser based, so I could just close the browser and go to the second pane anyways. Whatever, it's too late now. We'll open Firefox and we will go to bloodhound. We see bloodhound has started. We'll log in, hopefully. And now that we're logged into bloodhound, we will be importing our data. So we'll upload files, upload. We're going to go to Kali, builds, welcome. Oh, I didn't move it. Let's move this file into our current directory and then close that, go back. There it is. Open, upload. All right. And while that's ingesting, we can talk a little about what Bloodhound actually is, and I can also full screen this. So if you've never seen Bloodhound before, it can be really intimidating at first, but realistically, Bloodhound is just a graphical user interface, a GUI, of Active Directory information and data. So I'm going to go to Explore here, and we have our a.harris user. So we can look up here in the search, we can right click, and we can click Add to Owned. I guess we can do the same thing with e.hills. So both Add to Owned, but I do want to go back to the a.harris user and click on them. It could be a little slow, especially if you're running it through Kali, not a ton of resources to go off of. And on the right-hand side, you're going to see all of the information, all of the LDAP information that we were able to scrape from the domain, right? So we see the DN here, we see their SID, we see a ton of information. But there's the more important thing that I always look for when, well, I guess you can't see that my face cam's in the way, but on the right-hand side here, there's a ton of information. But the more important thing is down here where you can see is member of, and outbound object control. So looking at the members, we actually see that a.harris is a member of the WinRM group. So we could have WinRM'd into the machine, but again, I wanted to get a little more of an oversight, a little more sophisticated and a general better idea of what we were attacking instead of just blindly shooting and hoping. So a.harris is a member of the HR group, and we're also a member of the WinRM group. And it looks like that's it. But the more important thing, and this is where you're going to see misconfigurations 90% of the time, is in outbound object control. And what this is going to show is it's going to show, hey, what other objects can my user control in the domain? And here we see a really nice graph. It's laid out very nicely. So we see that a.harris is a member of the HR group. And the HR group has the GenericAll privilege over this user, i.park, which, if you remember, was the IT intern. So this makes sense, right? HR having control over the intern makes sense. But what is GenericAll? What is this edge actually saying? Well, if you click on it in the right-hand side, and I guess my face cam is in the way, I'm gonna move me over here for now. It's saying that general. The members of the group HR, so a.harris, have GenericAll permissions on the user. This is also known as full control. So we can manipulate the target object however we wish. And if we go into Linux abuse, there's a couple things we can do. We can target a Kerber roast. We can force change password. We can do a shadow credential attack. And out of these three, the easiest and most reliable is going to be the force change password. Target a Kerber roast is also good, but it doesn't make sense to try to target a Kerber roast if we can just change the password anyways, right? So we will be changing the password of i.park from our a.harris user through this misconfiguration of GenericAll. Alrighty, I'm gonna throw me back up there and head back to our terminal. And in the Bloodhound example, it shows using netrpc. NetRPC, this command works, but I prefer to use bloody AD. So bloody AD, is a really versatile tool, and it works very well. It's pretty simple to use as well. So bloodad-d welcome.local -u is going to be a.harris. -p is going to be, if I remember, welcome 2025. And then we're going to do, I believe it's set. And then I'm going to do -h because I always remember, I always forget this. I always forget how to actually set the password. I have to do this help menu every time. Set password -h and target new pass. So we want to set the password of i.park to password 123. And this should work. And nope, it does not work. What is the problem here? Oh, I need an IP. I need an IP. --DCIP. --DCIP. I never added this to my Etsy host file, so I guess it makes sense why it's not resolving. And I forgot my IP. Scroll up. There we go. All right, let's try again. And password has been successfully changed, and we can confirm this once again using netexec. Netexec SMB RIP -u of i.park is our user, and then our password of password 123 exclamation point. And we see we have successfully authenticated, and we can, again, this is where the enumeration process starts again. Right? It's just a big loop. We compromise another user, and then we enumerate the system again. And it looks like, unfortunately, the shares are the same as before, but this is why we took bloodhound information. We're going to go back to bloodhound, and we're going to check out, hey, now that we can right-click and add i.park to owned, what can he actually do? And again, right side information, there's a ton of information, nothing too important. We can check member of, and we see that he is a part of the help desk group and the IT group. But again, as I mentioned before, it's this outbound object control. This is where the money gets made. We click on outbound object control, and this is the relationship that we want to see. All right, so we see i.park is a member, as we just saw, he's a member of the help desk group. But the help desk group can force change the password of both of the service accounts that we enumerated earlier, right? The web service account and the CA account, the certificate authority account. And out of these two services, the web does say it's still in progress, right? So the web server is still in development, and that could set off alarms in your brain. But to be honest, the one I want to look for first is the CA, right? Certificate authority is what CA stands for. And essentially it's just the service account is going to manage the CAs of the domain. And if the CA templates are misconfigured, we're going to be able to escalate to domain admin from there or another user on the box. So we're going to take over CA first. And again, we're going to look at this edge here. The edge is sort of the connector between the two nodes or the two objects. And the edge here is ForceChangePassword. We can look at general Linux abuse, but as the name suggests, we have the capability to change the user's password without knowing the current user's password, which is very good for us because we don't know CA services, the service CA account password. And it's going to give us the same instructions as last time. We can use netrpc, but we're going to disobey bloodhound and use bloodad instead. So we can honestly scroll up and just use that exact same syntax, right? But instead of a.harris, we're going to do i.park, and we're going to do password 123. And instead of setting the password for i.park, we're going to set the password for service_ca. And I'm going to say my service account now, and hopefully that works. Password successfully changed. Again, we can confirm this with netexec. So service CA password. I don't know why I made it such a complex password. And we see we authenticate. And again, same shares as normal, but remember, this is the CA account. We want to be able to enumerate the certificate authority templates. And to do this, we can use an awesome tool called Certify AD. And as the name suggests, it says Active Directory Certificate Services, or ADCS, enumeration, and abuse. And what we're going to do here is we're going to try to find or search for vulnerable templates. So certify, find, and then we're going to provide our user of service CA, our password of, yeah, I don't know why I did this password. This was kind of silly. My service account now, and then we're going to provide the, I believe it's just DCIP. Let me just help just see all the options. I'm really bad at remembering flags for things. So like, okay, to play devil's advocate for myself, in Bloody AD, DCIP was specified with 2 dashes, and in certify, it's only 1. This is why I always look at the help, just because I forget these little nuances, and I get the job done anyways, but I always like making sure, double checking that I am doing it properly. And then we're going to, so we have the user, we have the password, we have the IP, and now we're going to look for dash vulnerable and dash enabled. So we're going to look for any templates that we can enumerate as the service account at this IP that are vulnerable and that are enabled. We click enter, and we hope it works. And we see certify firing away. We found 34 templates. We found 1 CA. And we retrieved 1 CA configuration for the welcome-CA, which is great to see. So there is an actual certificate authority, as presumed. We're checking web enrollment. And that is it. So we're able to check out this JSON now. And I believe it's all here. Yeah, so we have the JSON and the text. I like to cat out the JSON and then do JQ, just because it helps me see it better. And we see we have the CA name of welcome CA, the DNS name, which is our host name, so the dco1.welcome.local, subject, a bunch of information here, when it starts, when it ends. Web enrollment is not enabled, which is fine. We see the owner is the administrators. Scrolling down, authenticated users. Keep scrolling down, we see our CA, our certificate authority, and the template name, which is also important. So we have welcome template and welcome CA. Both of these pieces of information are going to be used later down the line, so make sure you're remembering those. And this is where things get spicy. All right, so permissions here. Permissions on this template. We can enroll, so we can enroll as the service CA account. This is a misconfiguration, and we continue to scroll down here. We can see, yep, user enroll with principals, welcome.local, our service CA account. And the vulnerability here is ESC1. So enrollee supplies subject and template allows for client authentication. What does that really mean? And I'm not going to go too in depth on this, simply because people who are much smarter than me, who made certify ESC1, search that. So I think it's this, maybe. Yeah. So people who are much smarter than me that made certify actually described this vulnerability a lot better than I ever could. So I'm going to leave this documentation in the description, and I encourage you to go read it for yourself. Try to understand why this vulnerability actually happens. But the main gist of it is we, as a low privileged user, can enroll permissions on the template. And what that essentially means is we're going to be able to request a certificate as the domain administrator. We're going to be able to request a certificate. We're going to be able to grab the NTLM hash of the administrator because we can enroll new principals. Okay, that's the gist of it. I highly recommend you to go check out this GitHub page, because it also will walk you through the commands that you need to actually request the certificate. All right, so this is the exploitation section. And to be honest, we can just use this and plug and play. Again, why I love this documentation. So we can have this, and we'll just plug and play here. So certify request, our, or sort by AD, request, and then we're going to supply our user of service CA, our password of, I forget it, my service account now, our DCIP of, again, great memory here is not working out for me. Our target, so this is going to be our, the domain controller. And I may actually have to add this to Etsy hosts. I haven't done it yet out of laziness, but I may have to add, we'll see if I need to add it to Etsy hosts. Target, and then CA is the certificate authority that we saw earlier, and this is just welcome CA. We can scroll up to confirm this. Yep, it's just welcome-CA. And we have welcome template as well. I'm going to copy that because that is the next flag. So dash template is a welcome template. And I'm going to put all of this in quotes just because it is best practice to put everything in quotes just to make sure there's no weird character escaping going on. And then the UPN that we want to request the certificate as, in this case, we do want the administrator at welcome.local. Oops, I accidentally pressed enter. I'm gonna close that quote out. And then the SID of the administrator. I found that this actually isn't necessary. I think we can just do this and we'll see what happens. So we have our big command here, we press enter. And yep, as predicted, we do not need the SID. I think in some cases it is helpful, but if we can get the cert as the UPN of administrator, we don't really need all that. So we see that we have wrote and saved the certificate to administrator.pfx. And this isn't really helpful to us yet, but another certified tool that we can use will turn this PFX into the NTLM hash that we need to authenticate to the domain. So once again, certify AD, and we're going to use the auth module function. I don't know what their organizational hierarchy calls it, but certify AD auth, and then we're going to provide the PFX file of administrator.pfx, and then we're going to provide the DCIP of, I always forget it, of here, and that should be good enough, and yep, it is. So we are providing the PFX file, and from that, we're able to pull the TGT. So we have the TGT if we want to do Kerberos authentication, but we can also retrieve the NT hash for the administrator. And of course, at this point, it's now game over, right? We can evil win our in. I guess we can check netexec first. So I'm going to go all the way up to netexec just to make sure that this hash is what we're looking for, administrator. And I'm going to provide -h. And I don't think the colon's actually there. And we see we do have that lovely orange pwned sign. And this is why I love netexec. When I see pwned, oh, unbelievable feeling, unbeatable. So seeing pwned here is great. We know that this is the domain administrator, welcome.local/administrator. And we have successfully compromised the domain controller. And you may have noticed, and from the feedback from the HackSmarter Discord, I actually, other users have also noticed this, is we've compromised domain controller without getting a single shell on the box. We haven't gotten a shell on the box yet. It's all been from the Kali command line. And that is kind of the beauty of Active Directory. You don't need a shell to compromise the domain. It's the beauty of it. And we haven't captured any flags yet either, right? There is a user flag on the box, but we haven't captured it yet. So I think it's time where we get a shell in the box finally. We'll grab a shell in the box and we will obtain our 2 flags that are very well deserved. And to do this, we can do it a few different ways. I'm going to try SMB exec to start. And Defender actually is enabled on this machine, so this may not go through, but it's worth a try. Welcome.local administrator. And then our hash of, so whenever you're using in-packet tools, it requires the colon in front of the hash, by the way. -DCIP of this, and let's see if I remember the syntax. the hanging here does not give me lots of hope. I'm going to be honest. Error connecting. Let's see, what did I do wrong? Welcome.local, domain, username, password. Oh, I forgot the IP goes here. I can put it in both places. And take out my help. And the object name is not found. Okay, so we have some unfortunate malfunctions. I forget the exact syntax, but this is going to provide us error. And another way, it is kind of tough to get a shell on this box. I guess we could just do equal winner m, now that I think about it. Another way is to use the pass the hash Kali Linux suite. So pass the hash curl, net, RPC client. You could do, I believe when I did this box and I was testing it, I used WinExe, and that worked. So I guess we can try both of them. We can try WinRM and this pass the hash WinExe. -u is welcome.local/administrator. And then our hash, we provide the whole hash here actually. Wherever that was, go right here. So with the pass the hash, you have to provide the full NTLM hash, and then our IP, and then the command. So we just want to get a command shell, and it doesn't work. So some of these will work, some of them will not. That is very okay. Maybe I need to do like UPN. Nope. Oh well. Time to go to old reliable. So we've tried SMB exec, we've tried pass the hash WinExe. On my testing, this did work, so I'm a little confused as to why it's not working. Maybe I need to put it in quotes or something. I don't know, but we'll try evil winrm to wrap things up here. Put a close on this video. User administrator password or -hash of our hash here, and with evil winrm, I forget if it needs the full hash or not. It looks like it does not, so we're now in as the administrator on DCO1. So that, of course, is going to be the box. We can go to the administrator desktop to grab root.txt, and the user in this scenario is actually a.harris. So if we go back a couple directories, we can go in as a.harris cd desktop, and here's your user flag. So again, the big takeaway here is you can actually compromise an entire domain, and we could have done secrets dump as well, right? We didn't even have to get a shell to grab our flags. If this was a real engagement, you do secret dumps, you do secrets dump, and then move on to the next machine or the next step for you after completely compromising the entire domain. So the big takeaway here is, one, change default passwords, right? Remember, our entire attack path hinged off of that default password being set in the PDF. So the welcome domain, the welcome IT team set that default password for every account, and it's still technically possible to use that default password. You're not forced to change it when you log in. So we see that our user here, a.harris, took that to heart and did not change their password. So one, change default passwords. Two, make sure there's not overprivileged group, right? Having GenericAll, going back to bloodhound here, we can kind of, I wonder if we can draw out our entire attack path. Maybe not, but as before, right? a.harris was part of the HR group, and the HR group had GenericAll over i.park. So limiting those kind of interactions, because it just enhances the ability to laterally move across a domain. So limiting those kind of interactions, and oh my gosh, I'm gonna need water after this video. I've been yapping for too long. And then, of course, having ForceChangePassword on your service accounts, probably not great. You probably want to do a more organized way of controlling service account passwords, and maybe like a just-in-time protocol. So ensuring that Service accounts can only be used in a certain time period and nothing else. And then, of course, the last thing that we just went over is the certificate authority and certificate services exploitation, making sure you are not vulnerable to ESC1 or any of these ESCs, right? This is not the only one. There's 16 of these CA vulnerabilities according to Certify. So making sure you're not vulnerable to those is crucial. But that is going to be it for this video. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you enjoyed the box or if you played it on Hack Smarter Labs, please let me know what you thought of it. I am always accepting feedback. I'm working on a new machine this weekend, I think. So this weekend, I'm going to work on a new machine. It's going to be I don't mean to leak here, but if you made it to the end of the video, you deserve a little gift from me. So this new machine that I'm working on is going to be a multi-machine lab. So it's going to be a domain controller and a user machine. So it's going to be, you're going to have to laterally move and pivot between two different machines. It's going to be very fun, very cool. And I'm also going to make behind the scenes content on that machine. So stay tuned for that. But again, if you played, welcome. Please let me know what you thought of it. I'm open to critiques, criticism, so long as it's constructive. And I will, hey, maybe if you're lucky, I will implement your feedback into my next machine. So all that being said, thank you for sticking around. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Happy hacking.